Welcome back. You're doing great. Let's see if we can get through the rest of this lecture. Let's look at this this method that prints the ticket. It's not a very pretty method. But it does have a bunch of different lines, one after the other. So, access modifier is public. Return type is void because it's not returning a value. It's just doing something. The name of the method is print ticket. And notice that that's camel case, so it's more than one word. The first word is lowercase and the subsequent words after it are uppercase. So, if it was print uppercase naive, uppercase machine, uppercase ticket, you could slam all of those together. It makes it easier to read words, read identifiers that are multiple words, and it's a common practice in Java. So you want to get used to using camel case, keeping in mind that some technical leads would prefer you to do print underscore ticket, but it's an older, that is definitely an older style of naming. Just know that it's not enforced by the compiler, it is more enforced by convention. Okay, so we have a comment. Simulate the printing of a ticket. Print a line with a bunch of hashtags, or pound signs. System out println, print a new line, and then a little bit, system out println, another line. This is the line we want to focus on right here, the string concatenation. So we're focusing here on the string concatenation. We have a string, because we have the double quotes. A plus sign means append the value to this string and attach that. Then we have another set of double quotes which runs from here to here, so put a space, then the character CENTS, and then close the string. And then another row of pound signs, and then a blank line. So print ticket is responsible for showing things out to the console window. And you've probably done print lines in your previous classes, so this should be no big surprise. This method also does two other things. We take the balance, add it to the previously stored total, and update the total to be the new value, and then we zero out the balance. So here you can see why we don't give change. We don't take any account into is the balance too high. It also is why we print tickets when they're too low. As long as you call print ticket, it's not checking to see if it should actually print. But let's look at string concatenation a little bit more. What the heck just happened? That's where we are. Sorry about that. So, the string concatenation overloads the plus operator. So if we have two integers, integer plus integer yields integer. 4 plus 5, 9. We would expect that. If we have the string wind and the string ow, we just tack the second string onto the end, we concatenate, becomes window. Where things get funny is when we have strings and integers, or strings and floats. So here we have a string. We want to concatenate, or we want to use the plus operator, and we have an integer 6. So string plus int. Well, we can't make a numerical value out of this, and the first thing that we see is a string. So we're going to convert the int to its string representation from the number 6 to the character that represents 6, which are not the same thing. And we will tack that onto the end. So now we can look at what's happening here. A string plus an integer becomes a string, and then that string plus integer plus another string, or I'm sorry, that string that results. Let me start that again. A string plus an integer means concatenation, so the result of this is a string. So now this piece here is a string plus a string, comes together and makes this concatenation. I want to go back to something I said here, which is the integer value of 6 comes back to become the string representation, or the character representation of 6. You may have heard of the ASCII character set. So let me recommend that you take a look at a website called ASCIIchart.com. So can I just type that in here? I think I will. http://ASCIIchart.com. Whoops. So ASCII stands for the American Symbolic Code for Information Interchange, and this has been the I don't want to say the standard. It was an early standard for encoding which patterns of bits become representative of characters. So I'll do a supplemental video on ASCII after we get through this. But just keep in mind that this 6 as an integer and this 6, the character representation of it, are actually two different things to a computer on the inside. I know, it sounds kind of weird, but as computer scientists or as game developers who need to work with computers as the medium of expression, you need to start understanding how the computer actually works, not how it appears to work. Okay, so here's where things get a little bit weird. It can only do one operation at a time, so it isn't looking at all of these strings at the same time. Or, I'm sorry, it isn't looking at all of these values at the same time, because they're not all strings. It's going to go from left to right. Integer plus integer yields integer. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Integer plus string. So 11 plus the string hello will yield the result of 11HELLO as a result. But if the order is changed, string plus integer yields string. So this becomes hello 5 and is a string. String plus another integer. This turns this integer into a string, and so the end result will become the character set HELLO56. So keep in mind that even though it looks like things are happening all in one line, internally to the computer, it can only do one of these operations at a time. Those of you who have had assembly understand why, and those of you who have yet to take assembly or who won't take assembly, just keep in mind that any complex line of code is actually being broken down into many different individual instructions inside the processor, or in the case of Java, inside of the virtual machine, to later go to the processor. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a later video as well. Okay, let's summarize what we've talked about with methods. If when we define a class, we're defining an object, and an object is kind of like a noun, then the method is the behaviors or the verbs that that object can perform. We want to think about the method header and the method body. The method header tells us information about what the method will what the method is named, what the method will return, and what information the method needs to perform its task, as well as its access modifier. And the method body is the line of series of code that actually does the work. Okay, so some of your questions in the homework ask you to just focus on method headers. You don't have to worry about writing how the method does it. It's just, can you think through, based on the description, is it public or private? What data type comes back? What should it be named? Does it need parameters? And if so, how many does it need and what are their data types? So go give that a try, and when you come back, we'll finish up Chapter 2.